Hello everyone. This is a video lesson of the introductory chapter of Unit 3 Environmental Pollution. Environmental pollution is the harmful addition of any solid, liquid, or gaseous substance or any form of energy like heat, sound, light, or radioactivity to the environment. സോ അളവിൽ കൂടുതൽ പ്രകൃതിയിൽ എന്ത് അടിഞ്ഞു കൂടിയാലും അത് പൊല്യൂഷനായി കണക്കാക്കപ്പെടുന്നു. ഇറ്റ് ഡസൻറ്റ് മാറ്റർ വെദർ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ സോളിഡ് സബ്സ്റ്റൻസ്, ലിക്വിഡ് സബ്സ്റ്റൻസ് or a gaseous substance, or if it is any sort of energy like light, heat, etc. All kinds of pollution adversely affect the environment. Adversely affect means negatively affect the environment and pose a serious challenge to the sustenance of life on the planet. So the living beings, the ability of the living things on earth to survive will be drastically reduced if pollution becomes high. Any undesirable substance or form of energy which damages the balance of the environment and adversely affects the quality of life on earth is called a pollutant. Pollutants are either natural or man-made and are classified from an ecological perspective into three categories. So the author gives us three categories of pollutants. The first one is a degradable pollutant. Degradable pollutants is like sewage, human waste. It is degradable pollutants are safe because eventually it will degrade and become part of the earth. It will decompose, so it doesn't pose that much of a threat because it will eventually decompose. And slowly degradable substances do pose a threat for a longer time because as the name suggests, it will take time for these substances to decompose. Example given is DDT. DDT you all may have studied in school. DDT is dichloro diphenyl trichloroethane. Now DDT, we primarily know DDT as an insecticide. So if you see the picture on the bottom right corner, we can see DDT being sprayed in plantations by means of a plane. So just like how endosulfan was sprayed on cashew trees in Kasargod, here we see DDT being sprayed similarly. And DDT was also, if you can believe it, it was also used to kill lice, because lice എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ പേന് വഴിക്ക് ട്രാൻസ്ഫർ ആവുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന ഡിസീസ് which is called typhus. Typhus was a major threat during the 1940s and all. So here you can see on the top left corner an American soldier disinfecting a woman. DDT is directly sprayed on a human being. On the bottom left, you can see a nurse spraying DDT onto the hair of a child. So back then, no one knew the harmful effects of DDT. Now DDT is a banned substance. So it is a colorless, odorless substance. It was instrumental. The use of DDT was instrumental in reducing the deaths caused by malaria and typhus. But it was too late before people got to know the harmful effects of DDT. Then DDT is a slowly degradable substance, and we have non-degradable substance, toxic elements like mercury, things that will stay forever. It cannot decompose. So mercury, you all know, it is a liquid metal, and big when mining happens, mercury contamination takes place. So um, the major kinds of pollution are air pollution, water pollution, and land pollution. Air pollution is caused by release of small particles and gases into the atmosphere, chiefly by industries, vehicles, and power plants. It leads to major environmental disasters like acid rain. So, when all these fumes are released, what happens is these fumes carry sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxides, and when it rains, these you know elements rain back or come back to earth in the form of rain, and which is called acid rain. And you can see the effect of acid rain. See, these trees have been affected by acid rain, scorched altogether. All those trees are dead. Then we have, because of air pollution, we all know what is a greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect, for those people who do not know what greenhouse effect is, you can I'll explain. Now, greenhouse is a structure which is made out of glass, so that inside this greenhouse you can plant anything you want. You can do your planting and gardening even during winter, okay, because the light from the sun is converted to heat energy inside the greenhouse, so that heat will be maintained even during winter. So this is the use of greenhouse. Now, greenhouse effect with respect to earth, you may have studied all these things. Greenhouse effect, the rays of the sun enter the earth, and it has to it has to be reflected back to the atmosphere. But what happens is these poisonous gases, these polluting gases, prevent the light energy or the heat energy from being reflected back. The sun's light is converted to heat energy as after it enters the earth's atmosphere, and this heat energy is not radiated back because these harmful gases in the atmosphere prevent no, these the heat energy from being reflected back into space, so that which actually results in the increase of the temperature of the earth. In India, 1.6 million people die every year because of air pollution. Water pollution refers to the release of chemicals, microorganisms, or forms of energy, example, heat, into water bodies like lakes, rivers, and oceans. So, all these are pretty self explanatory. I need not explain all these things. As a result, various water based ecosystems are under threat, and the consumption of contaminated water causes fatal diseases like cholera, diarrhea, and hepatitis A. Hepatitis A is something which affects the liver, and cholera is, if it is not treated in time, cholera can lead to the death of the person. So, and diarrhea, again, diarrhea is a very common disease which we all know. Land pollution is the dumping of solid or liquid waste materials on land or underground, contaminating the soil and endangering human life. So, it is the indiscriminate dumping of waste on ground which leads to soil pollution or land pollution. Other forms of pollution we have to deal with are noise pollution, light pollution, thermal pollution, and radioactive pollution, and also plastic pollution. So, noise pollution, everyone is familiar with noise pollution, but most people are not familiar with light pollution. Light pollution is happens because of the overuse of light at night. You can see here, this is a picture of a city taken from afar. Look at the amount of light which is used at night in the city. So you might be wondering, how can this become a pollution? Now, if it affects one's health, then it is a pollutant. So, overuse of light can have harmful health effects on human beings. It can cause problems to migratory birds which actually travel by night. So, they travel, uh, under the light of the moon, and it causes these migratory birds to lose way the artificial light. So these are some of the harmful effects of light pollution. And the one more problem with respect to light pollution is the problem for created by light pollution for astronomers. This what you see in the background here is what is called sky glow. Okay, light from a city lights up the sky, and the sky glows, and this prevents astronomers from watching celestial bodies. So this is what is called sky glow. Noise pollution refers to the presence of undesirable levels of sound that can have harmful effects on human life and ecosystems. It can be felt inside factories and in busy urban centers with mass transportation facilities like railways and highways. So, noise pollution, is you're all familiar with that. Similar to noise pollution, light pollution, or the presence of too much artificial light, can affect the rhythm of life on the planet. It can cause sky glow and result in reduced visibility of the stars for the astronomers. We've already mentioned that. Um, Light from poorly directed street lights, huge buildings, and vehicular headlamps cause discomfort to humans, birds, and animals alike. Now we come to thermal pollution. Thermal pollution is what happens when hot water from factories are dumped indiscriminately into water bodies. They're just dumped just like that, without indiscriminately. So mostly water is used in factories in big machines as a coolant, okay, to absorb the heat of big machines which are used from morning till evening. So in order to cool down these machines, water is used. So the heat produced by these machines is absorbed by the water, and the water becomes hot, and at the end of the day, this hot water is released into uh, water bodies. Thermal pollution refers to the discharge of warm water into a river or sea. A good example would be the release of cooling water from power plants. This decreases the amount of dissolved oxygen in water and increases the rate of metabolism of fish. So, increasing the rate of metabolism is how food is converted, the process by which food is converted to energy. That is what is called metabolism. Radioactive pollution is the physical pollution of the environment and its inhabitants as a result of nuclear explosions and accidents at nuclear power plants. So, a good example of accidents at nuclear power plants is the accident which happened in the explosion which happened at Chernobyl. And this picture on the left is from 1986, when the accident actually happened in Chernobyl. And now today, that site, it still radiates, it still emits radiation, and people cannot live there because of radiation pollution, because radiation causes cancer. Many people have died, and the effects of radiation still causes trouble to the descendants of those people who were affected by radiation. in Chernobyl. So now they have covered that particular site, so that in order to limit the radiation from going outside. But still, that particular place is not livable. You cannot inhabit that place because it is completely polluted uh, by by radiation. And Chernobyl and the city of Pripyat was evacuated, and it's still uninhabitable. You can see the picture here. This is the place. This was an industrial town before the explosion happened, and now all these places are deserted. It's a ghost town. No one lives here. But you can see all those buildings are all empty. Everyone was evacuated. No one is allowed to go to that place even today, because the radiation still persists. The atom bomb dropped at Hiroshima and the nuclear leakage at Chernobyl are well known examples. We just talked about Chernobyl. The large scale accumulation of plastic materials in the earth, adversely affecting life both in land and water, is called plastic pollution. 10% of the total plastic produced every year reaches the ocean and upsets the marine ecosystem. So, plastic or microplastics to be exact is a major pollutant, as a major marine pollutant, ocean pollutant, and it in turn pollutes us human beings. It is said that if you are a regular consumer of fish, then in 1 month you are in fact consuming one credit card sized piece of plastic. So that is a problem of microplastics. It is hard to believe that plastic pollution led to the formation of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, an island of plastic 3 times the size of France. So I'll show you the picture of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. See, this is just one section of that garbage patch. You can see the plastic floating on on the ocean. This is not a lake or a river. This is an ocean. Okay, this is the Pacific Ocean, and this is just one part of it. If you take the entire garbage patch, it is 3 times the size of France, which is a country. So you can imagine. So you can see in this map how big it is, because there are it can be divided into west garbage patch and east garbage patch, and it is that much big today. The latter half of the last century saw an increasing awareness of the hazards posed by rising pollution levels. So one is the publication of Rachel Carson's book Silent Spring. It was published in 1962. So it was only after the publication of Carson's work, Silent Spring, you have already studied about Silent Spring, and only after its publication did people become aware of the harmful effects of DDT. But there are counter arguments also. Some say that Rachel Carson did not research this particular topic very well. So, in fact, her findings are flawed. That is what some people say. So, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring focused on the irreparable damage, something which cannot be repaired, irreparable damage caused to the environment by the indiscreet use of insecticides like DDT was an important step in this direction. Indiscreet use means without without enforcing any limits. Just just how we use sanitizers today. We just sanitize each and everything indiscriminately without keeping any limits. Concern about environmental pollution was the driving force behind uh, the environmental movements during the last century. Governments across the world are implementing policies and enacting laws to prevent and manage pollutions. So, how much these laws have had, how much of an effect these policies and laws have had, is still under question. Pollution control aims at reducing the release of contaminants into air, water, and land. The principle of the three R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, goes a long way in preventing environmental pollution. So, the three R's, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce means reduce the use of uh, harmful materials, not just harmful materials, any material which is used unnecessarily, you have to reduce it, you reuse it. Reusing is, instead of replacing something with a new one, try to get those things repaired and then reuse it instead of getting things replaced every time. And recycle is if something if there is something which you cannot use. For example, a plastic plate is something, it just broke and you cannot use it. So what can you do? You can reuse it, but then you can give it for recycling, to create a new plate. So the use of the three R's goes a long way in preventing environmental pollution. It is highly imperative, it is crucial, it is critical that we all assume the responsibility for the degrading quality of our living conditions and act wisely to prevent further damage and degradation. So, it is our own responsibility. You might be someone who may not be polluting the environment directly, but you may have an indirect impact on the environment. So, this is everyone's responsibility. No one can back out of it. We must recognize that our personal choices can either worsen or improve the quality of our environment. So, it all depends on each and every one of us. Our choices, your choice to use materials made out of bamboo instead of plastic can help in the conservation and preservation of the environment. So it is all in the hands of each and every one of us out there. Thank you.